So good evening, everybody. Um, Here we are. Here's Helen and me. I'm Chris. This is Helen. Um, we are going to be talking to you this evening about Baja, California and Silverbank in the Dominican Republic, from which both Helen and I have returned only a day or two ago. Today's Tuesday. We both got back on Sunday evening. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Helen, who is going to tell you more.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Yes, as Chris said, he and I have literally just returned from the most wonderful adventure on the Silver Bank, a raised bank in the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean, and we absolutely loved it. Okay, the system issues appear to be back, but essentially, yes, we're talking to you about Baja, California on the Pacific coast, and I'm going to start this evening by talking to you about the Dominican Republic on the Caribbean side. In terms of logistics, it's such a mind-blowing experience that I've got to start by just talking to you about how we get there. That's the very first thing. So where the Dominican Republic is concerned, we fly into Miami initially. We have a logistical overnight stay at an airport hotel, and then it is a whole 90-minute flight down to the north coast of the Dominican Republic. And it is the Dominican Republic that we are going to, not to the island of Dominica. Now, Dominica itself is known, down in the bottom right-hand side of your screen here, Dominica is known for swimming with sperm whales. We are actually talking about the Dominican Republic, the island in slap bang in the center bottom of your screen there, and we are going to be talking about snorkeling with humpback whales. So from the north coast, just where my cursor is now, if you can see that, is a slightly darker shade where Silverbank has just appeared. And this is a raised bank surrounded by around 1,300 coral heads, which are essentially, if you imagine the trunks of underground trees growing off a raised bank of earth, submarine, of course, that averages between 18 and 30 meters deep. You have these coral eruptions coming up and forming a slight barrier from the force of the mighty Atlantic. And it's due to this coral head barrier that it is thought that the humpbacks come here for two reasons, essentially. They come here to breed and they come here to calf 1 year later. So on the whole, these whales are migratory. They spend the summer months up in the Arctic waters where krill is abundant, where other food sources, other fish are abundant. And then, like me, they choose to go south for the winter at all times. So Silverbank is a protected sanctuary that has been protected since 1986 for the largest amalgamation of North Atlantic humpbacks that ever comes together. Essentially, between 5,000 and 7,000 whales migrate through this area in the early months of the year. So usually between December, January through to about the first week or so of April. So they're here with one thing on their minds. And Chris, if you can hear me and you can push on to the next slide, that would be lovely. Thank you. So we go and see them by spending 7 nights on one of 2 liverboards. Snorkeling with humpbacks is a strictly regulated activity, as you would expect. And Chris and I basically just experienced 2 different vessels. Once we're on the Dominican Republic, we get on board one of these 2 vessels, we sail overnight, and then we moor for the entire week of our stay off one of these coral heads. And this is the beauty that I stayed on with clients last week on our inaugural private charter of Turks and Caicos Explorer 2. She sleeps up to 20, so the group size is 19 plus me as leader, and she is equipped with 2 tenders. Next slide, please, Chris. And those tenders, as you can see here, get extremely close to the whales, and it is wonderful. So you can see people are standing up on the tenders. They are wearing wetsuits. We are essentially whale watching for around 8 hours a day on these tenders. And what we're searching for are cooperative whales, whales that are interested in us, that are showing inquisitive behavior. And the idea then is that we go from whale watching to whale swimming. And it's rather marvelous. Chris, on the other hand, was on a very, very similar vessel. Next slide, please, Chris. And that is the Turks and Caicos Aggressor 2. That is equipped with 2 Zodiacs, as you can see here. And this is the mooring that she was on last week. Chris is in that photo somewhere. He may be in his cabin. He may be otherwise engaged, but he is on that boat somewhere. Basically, all 3 vessels that sail up to the Silverbank spend the entire week together and then sail back together. And it's Aggressor and Explorer upon which we can actually offer you space. Okay, so on to the next slide, please, Chris, and how it works. Okay, so usually for about 4 hours every morning, we go out on the tenders and the Zodiacs and we're looking for whales. We do the same in the afternoon for about 3 hours, and we return to our respective motherships, for want of a better word, for lunch. So we're out at sea for 4 hours in the morning and 3 in the afternoon in our wetsuits, and we're simply waiting for that chance to get over the side and into the water. It's not always forthcoming, and I think it's important that you're aware of that. The idea is that we will get into the water as often as is possible during our stay, but it has to be on the whale's terms. Sometimes it can be hard to see the whales if it's choppy conditions, their blows just meld into the white horses that are there anyway. And so sometimes we are literally whale watching. For 2 full days last week, we were on those tenders whale watching without the opportunity to get in the water. That's not a but. It was amazing. Some of the behavior that we were seeing, often you're literally just seeing that back glide through that water with incredible ease. You might see lone adults, you might see a group of adults. Essentially, the whales are all there to do the same thing. The singles are ready to mingle. The chase, for want of a better word, when a male goes after a female, often other challengers will come in and you can end up with a melee of whales, all with one singular aim, and that is to impregnate that female. So she will go, the males will follow, and it's the strongest genes that finally get to mate with her. These groups, as they slide through the water, are known as rowdy groups. So essentially, a female being pursued by a number of suitors is known as a rowdy, and my word, it is exciting. Okay, next slide, please. What you will find is that there are also females who are down here to calve. So they would have been pregnant for the last 10, 11 months. So last season, they were down here mingling, and now they are here to give birth. And if they're giving birth, and once they have a young calf, the attentions of males are obviously unwanted. And we get to see a variety of behavior where the females are letting those males know in no uncertain terms that they're not interested. But these males that start to join her as known as escorts, and they will often try and manipulate her behavior because they've just got one thing on their mind. They might try and tell us to back off, as this one was doing, repeatedly lifting up that massive pectoral flipper and slamming it down on the water, so much so that it actually goes pink because of all the blood vessels that rush to that area. And when you consider that that particular fin could be 4 meters long, we're not always going to be in a rush to get in the water with them. Next slide, please, Chris. This particular event here, this all black tail, very distinctive. This was a mother who was disciplining her calf. The calf you can just see is ahead of her in the water, and it was pushing boundaries. It was moving further away from her, and as a result, Mum was getting really frustrated, and for 10 minutes we followed her meters from her as she slammed that tail down on the water again and again and again until the calf heeded her warnings and came closer to her. Next slide, please, Chris. The other super impressive piece of behavior that we're going to see on Silverbank, and this picture is actually one of Chris's. It's a cracker. This was one that he took last week, and you will see breaching again and again and again. Chin breaches, full facial turning breaches, tail breaches, you name it. If there is an opportunity for the males to fling themselves out of the water, showing off their athleticism and trying to gain the attention of single females, they will do it. We saw so much breaching, sometimes very unexpected, right next to the tenders, which is certainly a bit of a wake-up call, but it's fantastic to witness. But really, rather than me rambling on about surface behavior, what we are here to do is to try and get into the water. And when you go from this above water to this next slide below water, it is absolutely spectacular. Trying to describe how it feels when you slip over the side of that tender or that zodiac for the first time, and you're entering the water as quietly and as calmly as you can, with as little splashing as you can. When you actually right yourself and you're floating on the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, and a meter or 2 meters next to you is a Goliath giant, this rush just comes over you. And I found it quite incredible. Everything in my head just cleared. All the noise, all the thoughts of home. You are so focused on this incredible creature that is capable of such powerful moves and that could harm us, quite frankly. They don't. They just literally look you in the eye, as this one does. This is one of Chris's photos from last week. And literally, time stands still. Everything stops. And this incredible sense of calm just overcomes you. I was actually speechless, and it's not often that I can say that. Certainly my mum would agree. So you put your head down, you're floating on the surface, and this 16-meter long, 40-ton creature is eyeballing you. And it is incredible. There is a sense of wonder. There is a sense of awe. There is a huge humility and a humbleness to be sharing space with such an incredible, incredible animal. And it's quite emotional. Now, Helen Cox, my colleague, said to me, HB, you're just going to burst into tears as soon as you see this. And I didn't. I was very surprised. It's just this incredible sense of peace and that all is right in the world. But you literally lose any sense of time, and you're just so engaged in the moment, and it is so absorbing, and it is quite simply one of the most exceptional wildlife experiences I've ever had. And that answers your question, Andrew C., who earlier today contacted our marketing team to say, what is one of the best wildlife experiences you've ever had? Well, getting in the water with these guys is exceptional. Next slide, please, Chris. So what we're ideally looking for will be mother-calf pairs. And the reason being is that calves are breathing or needing to breathe every 2 to 3 minutes at this age. Some of them are literally weeks old. Some would have been born in December, some would have been born 2 weeks ago, and they are literally on the surface breathing every 2 to 3 minutes. So mother, very close by, will also be close to the surface. So if you can follow a mother and a calf, sometimes we would follow them for an hour and a half before the opportunity came to get in the water. So the whale watching element is important. You do need to exercise patience, but my word, the rewards when you do slip over that side once again and you're faced with this. This is one of my photos. It's not as clear as it could be, but it is indicative of the conditions there. The water is supremely clean. You get a little bit of seaweed every now and again, the odd fish that will photobomb, but in general, your visibility is going to change with every single sighting, simply because of the conditions above. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Is the water a little murky or not? But it doesn't matter when you get in the water and you see the grace and the elegance and the imperceptible movements of these creatures, it just takes your breath away. And when you think that we hunted this species only 200 years ago, we reduced its numbers by 90% worldwide. And yet, 1.5 meters ahead of me is a mother trusting me to be in the water, not only with her, but with her calf. Oh, I'm going to cry. Okay, get a grip, woman, get a grip. Okay, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Next slide, please, Chris. Normally we are swimming side on with them so that mum can clearly see us because of the positioning of her eyes. These animals are incredibly perceptive to where we are. That being said, if you read my report, when it goes onto the website, you will see that at one time we almost became the filling in a whale sandwich, but that was very exciting, but that's another story. But this rather exceptional image was taken by a client, Nick Diamond, who traveled with me last week, and she very kindly agreed that we could use this evening. I mean, just look at that. Again, 40 tons of animal coming at you with a calf, and then they just glide off into the abyss. It's oh gosh, the trust, it's exceptional. Next slide, please, Chris. This was one of my closest encounters. Again, it's not the clearest photo, but it doesn't need to be because you can see the size of that calf in comparison to mum's flipper. Mum could move that flipper and fling me to kingdom come with one movement. She enabled that calf to come so close. We were having to backpedal. You have to remain flat on the surface. They don't want you going vertical because the whales don't tend to respond well to that. So you remain flat on the surface and you push with your arms back so that we could actually create a little bit of space. That calf, I would say, I could have touched if I'd actually tried to. That is not permitted. I'm not going to push the boundaries, but it was that close. And they are gliding past you. So see, Susie and Paul, your question, how fast are they swimming? It looks like they're not moving. They are, the movements are so imperceptible. You know, it's the tail that is all about the propulsion. You sometimes see that moving, but most of the time it's pretty stationary, and those whales are keeping all of their limbs close by, possibly as a reaction to us being in the water. But at no time did I feel unsafe, and they seem to just glide past you. Fantastic. Next slide, please, Chris. Okay, so another thing that is just beyond beautiful, the calf, sometimes you're directly looking down on a mother-calf pair, often with an escort keeping out of the way beneath them, and you can only just about see his flippers, that's it. But the calves are coming up regularly to breathe, and it's like an underwater ballet. Sometimes the calf is balancing underneath mum's chin, defying her buoyant or his or her buoyancy. The calf and the mother often have their rostrums and their heads touching. They stay very, very close together. And then you get that magical moment where a calf just starts to drift up, breathes on the surface. Next slide, please, Chris. And then literally just comes back down again. They might twist while they do it, so you can see their ventral pleats. You can see markings on the tail. And I was like, well, where are these markings coming from? Some of these calves are 2 or 3 weeks old, but the mother has barnacles all over her body, on the flippers, around her genitalia, and on her tail. And as the calf is in such close contact with mum, those that does result in scrapes on the skin, and you can see that. And then when they look at you in the eye, oh my gosh, honestly, it is brilliant. You have to do it. You have to do it. Okay, next slide, please, Chris, because I'm aware I'm going over my allotted time limit. But full-grown adults will come and seek you out as well, and they will just literally drift by. If they start to move quickly, as they sometimes do, we are called back to the tender or the zodiac. We climb up a good ladder. You're not having to contort yourselves to get onto the ladder. You can literally walk up it and get back onto the safety of your tender and your zodiac. And then we continue to whale watch from the surface, following their directions underwater through fluke prints, through blows, and through, a lot of the time, simply bobbing in the ocean. And that's brilliant. Next slide, please. So it really is, I've noticed I've started to use this word quite a lot, but it is sensational. I've never experienced anything like this. I cannot wait to go back and experience it again, seeing the joy that clients were getting from it, seeing that the whales were so tolerant of us and that they kept coming back to check us out. They're as inquisitive as we are. Next slide, please, Chris. It's just, looking at that in the water. This is not one of our photos. This is a photo that I've used before, but you see that. Those ventral pleats that will enlarge later, fish food and etc. Fish food, Ben and Jerry's, but you know what I mean. Next slide, please, Chris. Getting a bit carried away now. But essentially, it is an absolute privilege to share the depth with these creatures. The silence is almost deafening because you're so focused. And this was actually one of the last visuals that I had in the water last Thursday afternoon. We'd spent all of Wednesday, all of Thursday in the water after 2 days of not getting in. And this was our last visual. And this was the one and only time that I welled up, because that tail just started to rise and fall ever so gently. And they just disappeared into the blue on their terms, as it should be. I've got goosebumps. It was phenomenal. I honestly cannot tell you. I think it's a bit like when we go to Baja, because I'm going to hand over to Chris shortly. But, I fell in love with whales 9 years ago in Baja, and I could not get over the proximity of grey whales there. I couldn't get over the proximity of humpback whales here in the Dominican Republic. And to share water with them, not just to be in such close proximity, but to actually be in their environment rather than looking down on them from above, it's something else. It takes whale watching to a whole new level. And what we're going to try and do now is, rather than just having stills, as you've seen, Chris actually took some fantastic video last week, and I'm going to hand over to him. I'm going to sit back, have a sundowner. This was our view most evenings last week, with a G&T in hand, obviously, as you try and process everything that you've seen during the day. But these videos will, I think, just sum up the experience. We have some alongside the whales, some underwater, and also then an aerial view of just what he and I experienced last week. And I'll tell you what, it was something else. Over to you, Chris.
So Helen very kindly said that we got some interesting video and stuff that we took whilst we're out there, which between us we did. And one of the really amazing things was not only, as Helen says, it wasn't only getting in the water with the whales, It was the proximity that we were to the whales when we weren't in the water. So regardless of whether we were in the water with whales or not, it was amongst the best whale watching I think either of us have ever had. So this is I've got three short video clips for you. This first one, you'll see, you'll hear a bit of whooping and so on going on in the background, I think. But you'll see what's going on here with a whale, a couple of whales in actual fact, very close to the boat. Yes. So this is mum and calf and an escort male ahead of those two. And you can see the beautiful crystal clear water. And that was not an unusual experience. And this next piece of video, again, it's a short piece of video, but this is again from the Zodiac that I was on. And this is a group of rowdy males, which we thought was, are all males rowdy? I'm not sure. But which we thought was five rowdies. And you'll see from here again how close we are. This was actually just taken on my iPhone. But it was a wonderful experience. Oh my God. And on our left, there's three here. Wow. But from here, it's a little bit difficult to see what's going on. So the captain of our vessel, the aggressor, Turks and Caicos aggressor, has a license to fly a drone in this area. And it's only the vessel captains that have the permission to do that. And this is what he was videoing from the air as we were watching these whales from sea level. Which was, I have to say, truly spectacular. It was real David Attenborough, BBC Natural History Unit stuff.
We've got 7 weeks till the end of the season, Chris. Can we go back?
Well, well, I'd love to still be there actually. Maybe the next one of these presentations we need to do needs to be from Dominican Republic. How about that? That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Move over the BBC.
Yeah, move over. Yeah, quite. But look at this. Look at these whales. So I think there are two, possibly three visible at the moment. We'll see another couple in the second one coming up right next to the boat. I think that was when I started videoing with my iPhone. So now we've got three in view. Four in view. And there's a fifth one coming up in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. I mean, what an amazing experience. It's just utterly joyful whale watching. Everything about it is simply spectacular. And Helen, as you said, a most extraordinary experience being there and a most extraordinary privilege being able to be there.
Yeah, I think before you move to Baja, I think we just have to say that we've both been ruined because every time we see a whale now, we're just going to want to dive over the side. They're going to have to be at the ankles.
I know. Oh my goodness gracious.
All of my group said the same. They were just like, No, it's too
No,
good.
no, I know, and we both said, and others that were with us said that it's very difficult to know which of the two experiences, Baja or Dominican Republic, is the better. They're both completely different, both exceptional, both utterly amazing.
Both at the
Um,
pinnacle, I think, of whale watching. And on that note, I'm going to butt out and leave you to it.
so um, I'm just going to chat for 15 or 20 minutes about Baja California. And Helen will be very kindly monitoring the chat because and any questions that you may have, because I seem to be having more complications than Helen is. So look, just to give you a bit of an orientation as to where Baja California is, I'm sure many of you, all of you, know where Baja California is, but if you don't, it's that rather wonderful peninsula that sticks down um, in the Pacific from the very western side of the states, sticks down in a southerly direction from California, in fact. Um, and there are a number of key places of interest in Baja California. And I am going to take you to three different locations, the three different locations, in fact, that we visit on our lovely whale watching trip, which I'm lucky enough to be leading in the course of the next couple of weeks, which is called Baja's Ultimate Whales. So there are three places that we go to. First of all, the very southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, to that area which is described on the bottom there as Gorda Banks, just a little bit north of Gorda Banks, in fact, closer to the Baja Peninsula, Cabo San Lucas and San Jose del Cabo. Um, and this is where, much like Dominican Republic, there are a huge number of humpback whales that come into the area to breed and calve. Um, there are great displays, as there are in the Dominican Republic, of tail slapping, of fin slapping, of breaching, and great, incredible displays of power. So I shall not apologize for these various um, breaching photographs. Um, I've been going to the area, lucky enough to have been going to the area for 10 or 15 years now, and have been utterly blown away by it from the very first time that I went. One of the most amazing things about it is seeing this extraordinary behavior from the sea, but with land immediately behind, um, and seeing repeated breaching, and these amazing animals just launching themselves out of the water. It's it's a festival of power, I think. You can see this male if you look at the tubercles, the hair follicles that it's got on what we're now looking at, if you like, the face, the top of the mouth that we're looking at there. You can see they're red with blood. So he's obviously been fighting with another male. He's still bringing himself out of the water at high speed and repeatedly, in order to display his prowess to the very many females that there are in the area. Some of them breach continuously. This particular one that we were looking at breached a staggering 56 times without stopping. Um, that was certainly my personal viewing world record of humpbacks. So the second place that we're going to visit is up into the Sea of Cortez, which is that section of the ocean between mainland Mexico and the Baja Peninsula. And this is a place where um, you'll see La Paz indicated on the map there. This is a place where we'll have an opportunity, with any luck, to see some of these rather beautiful animals. These are whale sharks, the biggest fish in the sea. Um, Now, they aren't always there, curiously, but they are often there. They are most often there, January, February, March, and April. Our trips run in February and March. Um, uh, Somewhat curiously, last year, having been coming to this area for many years, last year was the first year that they weren't there. So I can't absolutely guarantee that they'll be there because wildlife is what it is. But if they are there, then we will hopefully have an experience a bit like this, where we're able to get into the water. The water is murky, the visibility is poor, there's no question about it. Um, but it's still a wonderful experience as these relatively young whale sharks are um, opening their gigantic mouths in order to uh, swallow huge amounts of uh, water, or if you like, filter feed huge amounts of water, or I should say, in actual fact, filter the plankton out of the huge amounts of water. But it's a wonderful experience. It can be peculiarly chaotic in a rather lovely kind of way, because we're in small boats, not dissimilar to the ones that we're in Dominican Republic, in actual fact, and we're put very, very close, or as close as the very skillful drivers and guides are able to put us to the whale sharks. But they don't necessarily want to hang around because, of course, they're on another mission, which is feeding. Um, from La Paz, we go a little bit further north and we then board this rather beautiful boat. Um, this is a magnificent boat, which we are on for 3 days in the Sea of Cortez. Um, and it's a dive boat. It accommodates a maximum of 12 people, but they'll generally speaking be 10 people on board plus me, and a small crew. Um, it also has a rather lovely tender on board, which will enable us to get out and see all sorts of lovely things. And gone are the days when we think that people are happy to share small cabins with shared facilities, and that really is no longer necessary because all of the cabins on board Gallant Lady, which is the name of our boat, have ensuite facilities. It's a really super vessel. It has a great crew. And to help us with our whale watching, we have use of a spotter plane for the couple of days that we're actually in the Sea of Cortez. Um, the Sea of Cortez is renowned, of course, for its magnificent scenery. It's renowned for these beautiful coloured cliffs, wind-blown cliffs of amazing colours, and these rather marvellous islands around which we will have the opportunity to swim, hopefully with sea lions, perhaps with pelicans, and other rather interesting things. And the Sea of Cortez is a place which is known for huge numbers of common dolphins. So the likelihood is that we will encounter some really large herds of common dolphins, herds of perhaps 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 common dolphins, which frequent the area. When they hear a boat such as ours, they make a beeline for the boat, or perhaps a dolphin line for the boat, and they can be with us for an extended period of time. It is another of the world's great experiences. Seeing them bow riding on the front of the boat is also magical because the water is so beautifully clear. These are common dolphins, and we may well see bottlenose dolphins as well. Again, in fairly significant numbers, hopefully. This particular one kind of looks like it's flying, doesn't it? That was a stroke of luck, that particular shot. One of the other things that we're here to see, that we're here to look for, and the spotter plane will help us with this, is a blue whale, or perhaps more than one blue whale. We've been lucky every time in the past. We've had a number of absolutely outstanding sightings of blue whales. This one was a blue whale we saw very early in the morning on that particular day, and we were able to stay with it pretty much for the entire day. Um, they're huge. They are absolutely huge. Um, and to see them cruising along and to see them with this fantastic bow wave in front of their face, in front of their heads as they're moving through the water is another one of those, very special things. They have these gigantic bodies and they roll through the water, the gigantic bodies which really seem to go on almost forever and ever. Um, and uh, uh, and this uh, rather interesting and distinctive sort of bluey grey colour, hence the name, of course. Um, but it's not only blue whales that we might see in the Sea of Cortez. We might see sperm whales. Now, Helen has been lucky and seen sperm whales in the Sea of Cortez. I haven't. Um, we have seen brooder whales in the Sea of Cortez, but other things that we have seen there, including mobula rays and one or two other things. But we sometimes see these guys. And this was a piece of video that I took last year. Um, we had an absolutely incredible encounter with 9 orcas that we think had actually just killed, and they were celebrating after their kill, and we were with them again. We were with them for an extended period of time. 5 or 10 minutes later, they were still around, and this was on the other side of the boat as the water calmed down. Um, and again, they stayed with us. They stayed with us for an extended period of time. That was another magical Baja experience, Sea of Cortez experience. One of these things it's difficult to describe. The bird watching in Baja California is absolutely tremendous as well. There are about, well, over 200 species of bird for those that are interested. Wonderful opportunities to see ospreys, which really are I wouldn't say ubiquitous so much as very frequently seen, and there are some lovely nesting sites which we know. Great opportunities for cormorants and egrets and oyster catchers, and pelicans, and other things too. But the jewel in the crown, I think, of Baja California is the lagoon system. Um, you'll see I've marked on the map in red San Ignacio Lagoon. I would love to be able to point to it with my cursor, but I don't seem to have a cursor today for some peculiar reason. But San Ignacio Lagoon is that rather dark inflection, if you like, in the Baja Peninsula, which runs from south to north, just to above the letter N. That's one of 3 breeding lagoons for the grey whales. There is another one to the northwest of San Ignacio Lagoon, which is called Guerrero Negro. And there's another one to the southeast of San Ignacio Lagoon, and the other dark spot you see on the southeast on the Pacific coast there, which is called Magdalena Bay. Those other 2, Guerrero Negro and Magdalena Bay, are wonderful places to visit as well, but they are not as pristine. San Ignacio Lagoon, which we fly into by light aircraft, and you can see the entrance to San Ignacio Lagoon in the center of the screen. San Ignacio Lagoon is completely pristine. It's an amazing Pacific lagoon in the heart of the Baja Desert. The accommodation we stay in when we're in Baja California, when we're in San Ignacio Lagoon, I beg your pardon, is tented. It's a beautiful tented camp. Each of the tents has full facilities, flushing toilet and showers, a nice lounge area and a nice bedroom area. And from the tents, we can quite often hear whales out in the lagoon behind us. This, as I say, is where the whales come to breed and calve. This is a mum and calf. We go out in boats, again, much the same as the boats that we go out uh, in the Dominican Republic, slightly larger in actual fact. Um, the whale watching zone is very small, and there are only 16 boats that are actually allowed into the whale watching zone. Just an illustrative map here of where the whales are coming from in order to get here. So they are moving effectively up and down that west coast of North America and feeding in the Beaufort Sea and the Chukchi Sea, and then coming down into San Ignacio Lagoon and the other lagoons in order to breed and calve. And this is one of these amazing grey whales that come very close to the boats that we're in. The boats generally work in pairs. It's a peculiar thing that if we sit quietly in the boats, waiting and watching for things to happen, and there's another boat that's chatting and whooping and jumping for joy and laughing, the whales tend to be attracted to those boats. They tend to be attracted to the sounds. Of happiness somehow or other, and the pleasure that people are having when they're out. I wanted to put this photograph in because it just shows A, how incredibly close the whales get, and B, that you don't actually need to have some amazing photographic equipment in order to get some really super shots of the whales. Obviously, photograph here being taken, perhaps video, who knows, just with an iPhone or similar. This young grey whale is coming in upside down. He may well be just sussing out what's going on under the boat. Sometimes they stop underneath the boat and stretch their fins out, scratch their tummies on the underside of the boats. It is one of the great whale watching experiences of all time. There was one occasion, perhaps more than one occasion, where I've been in the lagoon and we have had 6 mum and calf pairs around the boat at the same time. That's certainly an interesting experience and a wonderful experience to boot. We get very close. You can see the barnacles, you can see the whale lice in great detail. They approach us with their mouths open. This is another young one, so you can see their baleen. Sometimes they come up and open their mouths right next to the boat, and sometimes they do this. And I wanted to put this image in as one of our final images. Simply, I think it displays the extraordinary feeling of elation that one can have when a grey whale basically comes up to say hi. It's really something that if you haven't experienced it, I would highly recommend that you do. The lagoon is, broadly speaking, a single species experience, but there are some bottlenose dolphins here, and this is perhaps the only place in the world where the bottlenose dolphins play second fiddle to everything else. So, Helen, I'm sure you are nearby, and I'm sure you would agree with me that virtually everything about Baja is amazing, even the sunsets, and that we would both welcome the opportunity to share our love of and experience of Baja with anyone that would care to join us.
Yes.
And with
Well,
that, I'm going to pass over to you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. That was brilliant. So yes, I think you can see that the 2 destinations are quite different, and you know, in terms of 8 hours out on the water all day, every day, searching for humpbacks in the hope that you will get into the water with them in the Dominican Republic, but that the whale watching is outstanding and the proximity is immense. And Baja, it's the sheer variety of species, of landscapes, of being at sea, of being on the peninsula. It's stunning. And it's your fault. You sent me there 9 years ago
sorry
on
about
my
that.
very first trip with Wildlife Worldwide, and I will thank you forever.
Feel free.
Could I please have the next slide?
You most certainly can. Oh, oh goodness. Well, can you? Hang on. Let's try now. Yeah, there we go.
Not that again. Okay. Right. So it's synopsis time. So essentially, we offer 4 trips that will take you out to these incredible destinations. In the top left, you have our snorkeling with humpbacks on Silverbank. So Silverbank is the reef, so-called because of the number of galleons that went down in the 1600s, loaded with silver. So it's a bit of a pirate and treasure paradise in addition to the incredible wildlife encounters with humpbacks. So we do a private charter there. Last week was our first. We have charters in place for 27 and for 2028. And they will be led by either me or by a new colleague that we will introduce shortly, Hazel Pitwood. And Baja, the next 3 travel plan covers that you can see there, will also be led by either me, Chris, or Hazel. What Chris has just talked you through is the second from the left trip there of the breaching humpback, and that is our Baja's ultimate whale safari. So that would give you the humpback breeding grounds and the whale sharks, fingers crossed, and the Sea of Cortez for blues and sperm or whatever else you're looking for, and of course the friendly greys of San Ignacio Lagoon. If you haven't got your sea legs or would rather just concentrate on the grey whales only, then we can organise a tailor-made private trip for you. That won't be led, that will just be you guys staying in a number of lodges, eco-lodges, glamping options that we can offer on the lagoon, and that is our grey whales of San Ignacio Lagoon. And again, just look at that proximity. It is an almighty adrenaline rush when they come up to you. It is sensational. And then our final offering with the sea lions on the front, because we do have the opportunity to get in the water with them as well, is actually a wildlife voyage. 7 nights in the Sea of Cortez only, which is what Jacques Cousteau referred to as the Galapagos of the North. So lots of fantastic snorkeling opportunities, lots of species that you might see, whales, birds, and, sort of pinnipeds. So all in all, you've got a plethora of choices. So on to the next slide, please, Mr. Breen. And here's Hazel.
She's in the background, not the foreground, it's worth mentioning.
So Hazel in the pink hat, let's make that clear. Right, she is an absolute legend. She joined us at the end of last year, having travelled on a number of private charters that Wildlife Worldwide had done on our North Atlantic adventure, sailing from Scotland to Svalbard when she was part of the expedition team. She's now working with us, and she is a mind of information, particularly about cetaceans. She was a wildlife guide on expedition vessels, polar in particular, for 10 years. So there's not a lot she doesn't know about whales. She's lovely. So you may well have the chance to travel with her if you haven't done so already. So our travel plans clearly state who is leading which departure, but it's not about us. It's about the whales. Next slide, please. There we are. So thank you very much for listening. We do have a number of questions, so I'm just going to run through them quickly. So we have a question from Robin B, who asked us, I'm over 70. Is the Dominican Republic a trip that I can do? Absolutely. Absolutely. We had a number of people in their 70s on our inaugural group trip last week. Chris and our team have been sending people down to the Dominican Republic on a tailor-made basis, whereby we put all the components of the trip together for you. But if our private charter dates don't work, you just go as a cabin. You know, we book you a cabin on board, Aggressor or Explorer. And we've had many people in their 70s, and it would be fine. So no worries whatsoever. Getting on and off the tenders, you do need to be fairly mobile and confident in doing so. And I also had a question, can you do the Dominican Republic trip if you don't intend to swim? Absolutely. I had a
Oh
lady
yeah.
with me last week. She never had any intention of swimming and she loved it. And she was an absolute gem. So you get a bird's eye seat on the Zodiac, on the tender, fantastic whale watching, really close whale watching. So absolutely don't let that stop you. If you don't want to get in the water, you're still going to get a lot out of the trip.
I
Definitely.
would I would say also we on the vessel that I was on, there was at least one person who didn't go in the water, was there just to enjoy the whale watching, and was totally and utterly blown away by it.
Yes.
This gentleman's wife was very much there in order to get in the water. That was something she'd wanted to do all her life. In fact, she'd wanted to see a whale all her life. It was the first time she'd ever seen whales. Can you imagine? She'll never be able
Wow.
to top it.
No,
But her
she's got it
husband,
with bells on.
no, exactly, yeah. But that her husband didn't want to. He just wanted to be there with her when she had that experience. So yeah, you definitely don't need to get in if you don't want to.
No, absolutely not. Water temperatures, I've also been asked about in the Dominican Republic. Balmy, averages
Barney,
25
yeah.
degrees. So we had wetsuits. You could wear long or short. You can rent them off the boats as well. The reason we were predominantly wearing them is when you're in the water, you don't actually feel the cold at all, but
No.
you are in, out, in, out, in, out, and you could be out for, say, 4 hours in the morning. And if the wind picks up between swims, the wetsuit just keeps you nice and toasty over that time. Um, but yeah, 25 degrees, you could easily just swim it in a rash vest. I was also asked whether there are any jellyfish. Nope.
No.
So we didn't actually see anything other than humpbacks, other than a couple of olive ridley turtles and one very small pod of dolphins, bottlenose, that joined us as we approached Silverbank. But you're not going to see other species there. It's all about the humpbacks. That's important to note as well. And I think
Definitely.
that, oh, hang on, we have two more that have
There
come.
are a couple more, but I can't get to them. Apologies.
Okay, let's have a look. Okay. Which would be your favorite trip as a starting point, Chris? Dominican
Oh man,
Republic or Baja?
as a starting point, good gracious. Baja,
I agree. I think
Baja.
because of the variety of whales and
Yes,
cetaceans,
yes,
dolphins and rays
yes.
and snorkeling opportunity as well as the whales, there's a
And
huge,
fantastic birding and stuff. I think
yeah,
Baja is. I mean, they're both exceptional. As hopefully, we've managed to convey that. But Baja is perhaps a more holistic package, isn't it?
yes.
Great birds and so on in Baja as well. And we travel to different places in and around the Baja Peninsula. So I would do Baja first, and then 10 minutes later, I would do Dominican Republic.
I concur. Surely you can fly Cancun, Mexico City, Dominican Republic via
I'm sure,
Miami,
I'm
all
sure
in a
we can
day.
find a
No
way.
worries. No,
Sure, we
I
can
would
find a
agree
way.
because even in terms of birds, I think I saw three frigate birds in a week
Yeah,
on Dominican Republic.
yeah,
We saw 4 or 5 turtles, but it's a much more kind of focused trip, the Dominican Republic. So I would probably go Baja first. That
yeah,
will well and truly give you the whale bug and then go
yeah.
to Dominican Republic. I concur. Lovely.
Yes.
Right. How do we get to Baja? Easy. You fly from
Easy.
Heathrow into Mexico City, you get a connecting flight, and you land on the southern tip, Cabo San Lucas. Job done. That following afternoon, that following morning, you're out on the water seeing whales.
We need to do the poll, Helen.
We
I can't
do.
do.
We do. So, yes. So, hopefully
No,
that has answered all of the questions. I did have one question yesterday when I was talking to
the
some clients
poll.
having come back. We'll do the poll. Yeah, you go for it. Do the poll
I
because
can't do it. I can't. I haven't got a mouse.
there's oh, of course. Sorry. Right. Okay. Let us. I'm going to launch the poll. So if you would like
Right
a
on.
travel plan, i.e., a detailed itinerary for any of the 4 travel plan covers that we just briefly discussed, Silverbank, Baja's Ultimate Whale Safari, grey whales if you just want San Ignacio Lagoon, and a week on the Sea of Cortez, on a liverboard, then your chance is to look for them now. Now, the question that I had yesterday, it's slightly delicate. It's to do with the Dominican Republic. And if you are out on a vessel, on a tender for 4 hours, and it will be warm, 21 degrees was the average, but you've got the wind, you've got the salt, so you are encouraged to drink as much water as you can handle. What do you do about the loo? Well, essentially, the ladder is put over the side of the panga. You hang on to the ladder and you go in the ocean. And if you're in a wetsuit, you go in your wetsuit. So I wish I hadn't left that till the end because I don't want to leave on that note. That's how it works. You only return to the main vessel for lunch.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go in your wetsuit. Lots of people take their arms out and, you know.
Didn't.
Well, and to be fair, quite a few people on our, well, that's up to you. Quite a few people on our vessel weren't wearing wetsuits. They chose not to because the water is, as you say, is beautifully warm, 25, 26 degrees. It was 78, 79 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes, I didn't feel cold once in the week. And normally the slightest bit of wind and I'm like, woof, chilly, but I didn't feel cold at all. It can be chilly on board because the air conditioning on board is purposely left high. So do bring a couple of fleeces just for breakfast and dinner when you're sitting in the lounge dining room on board. But other than that, it's beautiful. You don't need to bring much in terms of packing simply because you're in a wetsuit for 8 hours a day. And so nice one. Right. Okay.
Shall I go on to the next slide? What do you think? Shall I try and
go on to the next slide? Let's wrap this up. I think they've heard us banging on about whales for long enough. But yes, over to you, Chris.
Well, we've got two more events, three more events coming up, which I can't really see on my screen because
you'd like me to say
other things. However, what I would say is we would obviously love to have you on these trips with us. Hopefully, we've given you a pretty good idea of what it's like. Please do order our brochures, and we have indicated there a discount code that will enable you to get a small discount off one of the trips as a result of you coming along to see us this evening. Thank you very, very much. We really do appreciate you spending the time, taking the time to hear us talk about places that we love. We're very, very lucky to be able to go to these amazing places, and we love sharing them with you. We are both particularly buoyant about the fact that we have just returned, no pun intended, about the fact we just returned from the Dominican Republic. I'm also lucky enough to be heading off to Baja next week. So look, thank you very much. Let's leave it there. Thank you. Lovely to have you on board.
Thank you very much, everybody.